The Darknet is a hidden network that can only be accessed through special browsers. The Tor network is often used by people addicted to anonymity, either because of their phobias or because of their direct connections to the criminal world. After all, nowadays it is one of the few ways to maintain complete, genuine anonymity. It's no wonder then that internet crooks use Darknet sites to conduct illegal business, buying something you can't get at 7-Eleven or another Walmart. And staying true to these allusions, for years there have been numerous Darknet websites similar to Amazon or eBay. There you can get substances from shady alleys, or hijacked accounts, counterfeit money, and many other things I can't just openly talk about on YouTube, but you all know what it is about. It's bad and illegal, don't look for it, because today I will try to deeply explain why it's not worth getting involved in. Here are the rise and fall stories of the most popular Darknet markets. Enjoy the video. A couple of months ago, oh how the time flies, we could hear a lot about the pardoning of Ross Ulbricht. He was the main creator of a pioneering Darknet market called Silk Road. This pioneering operation was truly big and was one of the first examples of a large-scale cybercrime. I of course made a video about these events if you would like to watch it. And I tell you this because today I will mainly talk about the Darknet environment shortly after and also long after the fall of Silk Road. After years of the site's dominance, just as quickly as it fell, the market was taken over by all sorts of continuations and other alternatives. You see, as I mentioned earlier, both selling and operating or facilitating the sale of illegal items is simply severely punished. Thus, users and creators of such sites must be extremely careful every day. They must be very careful not to fall into the hands of the police due to one stupid mistake. And that is exactly the kind of cases I will talk about today. Practically a few months after the original Silk Road was closed down, in November of 2013, its replacement appeared, proudly named Silk Road 2.0. It offered practically the same functionality as its predecessor and even the same named main administrator, Dread Pirate Roberts. The new administration also distributed specially encrypted digital copies of the site in case it was taken down by authorities. However, this state didn't last long, and in December of the same year, an announcement appeared on the site stating that 3 people from the Silk Road 2.0 administration had been arrested. The arrested individuals had previously been members of the original Silk Road's administration. However, the main administrator, the second Dread Pirate Roberts, assured that these arrests had no impact on the site's security, and roughly at the same time, suddenly, from one day to the next, he stopped managing the site. He was replaced by a temporary administrator called Defcon, who promised to restore Silk Road 2.0 to proper functioning. A few months later, in February of 2014, it suddenly became clear that there was a vulnerability in the payment system. Almost $3 million in bitcoins from users were reportedly stolen. Nevertheless, the site kept running, and affected users were reimbursed by April. About a year after Silk Road 2.0 was launched, on November 6, 2014, the site was finally shut down, along with announcement of the arrest of its main operator and owner, Blake Benthal, operating under the nickname Defcon, and Thomas White, nicknamed Cthulhu, who was co-responsible for creating the site. Agora Marketplace was another illegal market operating in the deep web. The site was running from 2013 all the way to 2015, when it was shut down out of fear that its servers might be soon seized by the authorities. Here is the last note left by its creators just before closing. In recent times, our research has shown that the Tor software has certain vulnerabilities that could ultimately lead to the discovery of our servers. Most of the security measures we could use require huge financial resources to implement. However, we recently discovered new security methods that we could easily implement, and we will do so. Additionally, we have noticed suspicious activity on our servers, so we need to relocate them again. But still, these are only temporary solutions. At this particular moment, when we do not have fully secure solutions ready, it would be exceptionally short-sighted to deceive our users into believing their data is safe. Therefore, with great regret, we must announce that we are suspending service operations at least for some time, until we find new methods. This will be best for everyone involved. Interestingly, a distinctive bot created by an artistic collective from Switzerland was making purchases on the site, and at an exhibition titled The Darknet From Memes to Onionland, viewers could see what was bought. The artist's bot made weekly purchases of items worth no more than $100 for a certain period. Curiously, the exhibition took place very close to the local police station in Zurich. The aim of the exhibition was to explore philosophical questions about the legality of such markets and places in the darknet, especially since the purchases were made by software. Evolution was another darknet market that offered a wide variety of services. It had particularly loose rules regarding the sale of stolen bank cards and basically other stolen funds. But it also had stricter rules involving other illegal purchases, especially prohibiting the spread of terrorism and certain private custom services. The market was founded in January of 2014 and quickly gained popularity, especially as its competitors were rapidly eliminated by authorities. However, the market itself avoided shutdown because its creators, including the administrator known as Verto, in March of 2015 performed a characteristic exit scam common in these parts of the internet. In short, they froze all liquid funds on users' accounts, citing a technical fault, and before their users realized the danger, the owners transferred all those funds to their personal Bitcoin accounts. This was pretty unusual because the darknet market had gained a fairly good reputation for its professional service, security, and exceptionally long operational time. Evolution had technical problems less frequently than its competition. In this way, over $12 million in bitcoins belonging to users were stolen by the site's owners. The real deal was pretty interesting in that the site sold mostly cybercrime tools, particularly malware and the so-called zero-day exploits. In short, bugs in popular software and systems that make it easier for hackers to conduct attacks. The site's creators even gave an interview to Deep.web, an industry site gathering information about the darknet world. In the interview, they said the site was created mainly because of the market for such services on the darknet, which in their opinion are mostly scams with nothing interesting to offer. The cybersecurity and cybercrime worlds from the very beginning had serious speculation about whether the real deal was truly the real deal and not, for example, a site set up by authorities to catch hackers and crooks in the act. These concerns mainly stemmed from the simple fact that many items available for purchase were sold well below market value. The site was ultimately shut down in November of 2016. Interestingly, research conducted by cybersecurity specialist Vinny Troya, based on an analysis of the closed site's database, showed that 2 of 3 administrators of the real deal belonged to the hacker group The Dark Overlord, and this group deserves their own video. AlphaBay was the longest running website in this video. It practically, with a brief break, operated until the February of 2023. And this is especially impressive regarding it was founded way back in 2014. AlphaBay actually surpassed the original pioneer of such dark websites, Silk Road, being more than 10 times larger. With over 400,000 users in 2017, AlphaBay accumulated more than 360,000 listings and daily transactions ranged from $600,000 to $800,000. However, as you can imagine, at this scale of illegal activity, there were some problems. The original founder and head of the operation was one Alexandre Casas, who made several very stupid mistakes that ultimately led to the downfall of his empire in 2017. First of all, in the early days of the site's operation, he used his personal email account to generate automatic welcome emails for new users and passwords resets. The same email account was also linked to his LinkedIn account and his legal computer repair business. He also used a distinctive pseudonym, Alpha02, which he had previously used on tech discussion forums. When he was arrested, he remotely reset AlphaBay's servers from his laptop as a direct response to a system failure created by the authorities. His laptop had no data encryption. On his unencrypted laptop, he had detailed information about his financial resources, which helped authorities take control control of his entire fortune. The hosting company he used for AlphaBay servers was directly linked to him, and encrypted Bitcoin wallets were stored on those servers. In the end, Alexandre Kazes was arrested and all his assets were seized. In that situation, Kazes was found dead in his cell. AlphaBay was revived after a few years break in 2021. The administration assured that new methods and rules had been introduced to avoid another shutdown. Interestingly, among the new rules was a ban on any discussion about the governments of Russia, Belarus, Kazakhstan, Armenia and Kyrgyzstan, which may suggest that the reborn site had some ties to one of those countries. Nevertheless, in February of 2023, AlphaBay was shut down yet again. The administration only issued a statement saying that some technical problems had arisen, but in the end, the site never returned, and the whole ending was most likely another exit scam. Hanza Market is an interesting phenomenon because for a while it was run by the authorities, by the police. It is of course another darknet market with all sorts of things you can imagine for sale. Only that in 2016 the authorities working on the Operation Bayonet, which aimed to shut down the entire cluster of such online markets, decided to take the opportunity and run the market for themselves for a while. Of course, everything was in the name of law and gathering additional evidence, collecting proofs and capturing more criminals. This case occurred when a cybersecurity expert assisting the police led them to the development version of Hanza Market. It turned out that in this version, the entire unsecured ERC moderation chat was preserved, where moderators wrote using their real identities. From there, it was really quick to catch the site owners, who practically lost control of the site to the law. And so the police waited deliberately for users to massively migrate to Hanza Market after AlphaBay was finally shut down. And that's exactly what happened. Thousands of users fled en masse looking for an alternative, including to Hanza Market. In short, the authorities deliberately modified the site's code so that it recorded all data instead of encrypting it. A clever trick was, for example, deleting all images from the servers to encourage sellers to upload new ones, this time with metadata, since the authorities deliberately broke the EXIF and metadata scrubber. In total, during the operation, users made over 27,000 illegal transactions, which provided evidence for many cases and led to the arrest of many criminals. Over 10,000 addresses of buyers of illegal goods from outside the Netherlands were discovered. And as more and more darknet markets were closed after each other, were closed month after month, everyone feared that the second largest marketplace would also fall victim to the law enforcement. Because the so-called dream market, as their name suggests, was the market of dreams. Nevertheless, speculation grew louder that it was another police-controlled site. And although in 2017 many users, including one of the administrators and sellers operating on the market under the nickname Oxymonster, were arrested, the site continued operating until 2019, when a huge banner announced to everyone that the Dream Market would be shut down. It is suspected that those arrests took place mainly due to wide-ranging law enforcement actions in earlier operations targeting other markets, from which the police extracted all data. If someone had the same information or even the same passwords on Dream Market, they were simply at risk. And this is the last darknet market I will talk about in this video. It turns out that this is an interesting case because we know a lot about how both administrators and one of the moderators fell into the hands of the police. The main moderator of Wall Street Market was a certain Medellin, who also had a Reddit account within the market's community. The same user was also in the Wall Street Market database with a note about a payout of about $1,200 for a customer support role. But how exactly was he unmasked? It all really began when authorities shut down AlphaBay. That's when one moderator most likely decided to look for work elsewhere and sent his resume to Hanza, already controlled by the police, though he didn't realize that yet. The police, however, continued the recruitment process, asking the prospective moderator more and more questions until finally they asked him for an address to send a hardware token necessary to get moderator functions on the site. The guy just gave the address, and everything checked out. The moderator turned out to be Marcos Paulo de Oliveira Anibale, who runs a computer repair business in Sao Paulo. All details matched. But the administrator's story was a little bit different, but really similar. In April of 2018, Dutch police came across an image of a server processing Wall Street Market transactions. It is unknown how the authorities obtained this information, but the important thing is that it contained many interesting matters. Primarily, it turned out that the site was managed by three users with the nicknames Coder, D1 and Kronos. They spoke German and divided profits equally. Although the administration connected to the site's servers using different VPNs, sometimes one of them lost connection, and that's how Coder was caught. Kronos, on the other hand, constantly connected via VPN through his mother's IP address, and D1 was cut through links to the previously shut down and seized market Hanza Market. It turned out that behind the market were Tibio Luzi, Jonathan Kalla, and Klaus Martin Frost. Additionally, it was discovered that the trio had already founded a fairly well-known darknet market in the German internet, German Plaza Market, which ruled there briefly until an exit scam and theft of funds occurred. The money from that scam was likely used to found Wall Street Market, at least that's what the logs from the cryptocurrency accounts of the site's owners suggest. And finally, they used the same trick with Wall Street Market. Just after the announced closure of Dream Market, when more and more users moved from there to Wall Street Market, the experienced administrators decided to perform such an exit scam again, this time on a significantly larger scale. And around the same time, the whole trio was successively arrested by the authorities. So, as you can probably notice from these examples, such endeavors usually end in one of these three ways. Primarily, takeover of service by the authorities, exit scam by the store creators, or sudden honest shutdown before anyone manages to track down the owners. So I honestly can't recommend venturing into such places. But if you already know such locations, please be careful, because you might become a suspect in the next international investigation, or just simply lose all your money in an exit scam. Take care on the internet. Thank you for watching.